Hello, I'm Marion, and I'm going to share with you my experience with the Saving the Rhino game. So first of all, let me share my screen. So here I have prepared a very short PowerPoint, which shows the reflections on developing and testing the digital game using Twine 2.0. First, I studied Twine, and I looked at tutorials, and then I tested it a little bit. Then I prepared a game outline. I developed the story, and I identified elements to be tested. Then I developed the whole game in Twine 2.0. I added photos, I self-assessed, and then I uploaded it to Philomena, and then sent the link to play testers. And just today, I have analyzed the feedback from the play testers. So what is the main thing that I learned from developing this digital game? Well, first of all, I learned Twine from scratch, and I learned how to do a gameplay diagram within the Scratch program. And here you see how the diagram of all the interaction was at the design phase. And here are a few screenshots of how it looked to the player. The white text being what they were to read, and the blue text were the path through the stories. So what was the strongest about my work on this assignment? Well, I completed a prototype to the level of testing, and I received positive feedback from play testers with lots of suggestions for improvement. In what specific ways have I improved? Well, I was able to create a story with characters. I was able to embed the quiz questions and the answers. I created some interactivity through the choice of paths to follow and the quiz questions and answers. I added the card collection, which was able to provide extrinsic motivation to the players. And I made the digital game that was easy for players to operate, and they were able to access it online. And I had a more varied and more robust play testing than I did previously, which was very informative. What problems did I encounter, and how did I solve them? Well, I never developed a story before that had multiple routes. So I focused on a story that was from The Guardian, and it was about anti-poaching rangers, and I used it for my storyline. And I found the more I researched into the rhinos and elephant poaching, the more depressing the situation became. So I concentrated more on facts about animals rather than dwelling on the negatives. I wanted the players to collect something, so I figured out how to add images. This was not without challenge. I ended up using those with Commons copyright. I added the image source and the list of hyperlinks at the end of the game. And I really struggled getting the code right so that the images appeared at all and that they were properly sized. Which aspect of my performance do I need to work on most? Well, Twine 2.0, I need to learn a few more commands so that I can figure out how to link my own personal photos. And I also want to learn how to add sound, as that was a suggestion of one of my playtesters. And storytelling, I think I need to develop the story better and add some conflicts and the resolution of the conflicts to make it more interesting. And in terms of design prototyping, I need to understand more whether I should practice with a paper prototype or whether it makes sense to go straight to using Twine 2.0 instead of a paper prototype. What specifically will I do to improve this aspect? Well, isn't this a great photograph? I found this from National Geographic. I think Twine 2.0, if practice made perfect, then I think that I will continue to use Twine to lay out the gameplay and elements if I design another interactive game. And if I were to revise this game, I would take into account all the good advice that was given to me by the test players, some of which I will share with you now. Altogether, I had 8 people testing, 2 males and 6 females, and the age range was from 12 to about 68. They completed 5 people completed the questionnaire, and 3 either dropped out before finding the Rhino or I had to help them. The overall comments from the test players were generally positive, but as you can see, some of them suggested clearer instructions at the beginning, such as go to the savannah and do X, Y, and Z, give a brief introduction to the game, explaining how it works, help visualize the goal as a map, that was one suggestion, or determine the criteria for success and failure. Overall, they suggested to add more graphics, including for the characters. This came from the 12-year-old. So you can easily imagine the person you should identify with. They suggested adding stronger storytelling with conflict and conflict resolution. And I should be clear about the targets group. For if it's a children's game, I should emphasize the appeal of the game versus the educational content. And 2 persons said to avoid direct reference quotes. In terms of playtesting findings, the question was, what did you learn? And I love this from the 12-year-old boy. He said, I learned that there are poachers in Africa killing elephants because they want their tusks. And the poachers are not being nice and kind to the animals. I have also learned that there are people, anti-poaching rangers, looking out for poachers, so the population of elephants and rhinos survive and doesn't drop. And a 20-year-old girl said, the whole process of playing has helped me learn quite a number of things that I didn't know. Now, in terms of the rating question, on the scale of 1 to 5, 1 person said 5, 1 said 4.5, 2 said 3, and another person had a range from 1 to 5. And I think it's important to know that 3 dropped out and didn't even find the Rhino. In terms of playtesting, another question was, what are the reasons for variation in engagement? And if it changed, why did it change? And here, their responses were there was a lot of confusion with the text only at the outset, and it was demotivating to keep returning to the same page. The storyline was not sufficiently developed about the characters. One was a scientist, one was a ranger. Basically, the text was considered too long, more images were needed, especially earlier in the game. And one of them said, my interest perked up a lot when the game became interactive and I was asked to respond to a question, which is when I learned about the cards and the need to collect them as I went along. So there was another question about confusion. What, if anything, did you find confusing or hard to understand? And the responses were, it seemed circular, I didn't understand where the clues were leading me, I felt stuck like going home on a board game. I did not find anything very confusing or difficult, but I didn't know what the poacher was the first time I saw the word. So that seems to me that if it's really oriented to children, that I should maybe have definitions for some of the more difficult words. I didn't find anything confusing. The options were clear, precise, and I especially liked the process itself was also fast. There was no loading time. Everything is organized. I was looking for progression through the game, wondering if I made other choices, how far would I get in the storyline? And as I said before, 3 players dropped out because of confusion. So here is the link to Twine. And I thank you so much for your feedback on my presentation. And for my metacognitive prompts, I used a textbook from another course, Assessment is Essential. So thank you, and Looking forward to hearing from you.